welcome everybody. Welcome to Business Insight. My name is Bruce Starr, and I've been hosting this show, and it's a show where we get to show special insight into different businesses that are out there. We've had authors, we've had athletes, stand-up comedians, and today I am thrilled to have an old friend from my Hollywood days in the late 90s and early 2000s. If you are a fan of Debra Wilson's, you are in for a treat because we're going to take an intimate look into the life of someone who was an original cast member and star of Mad TV. And I tell you, when I was watching that show, I was loving it, and I was proud to be able to say that you, Debra, was a friend of mine. She was just terrific on the show. She was on that show for 8 years, the original cast member of Mad TV for 8 years. She guest starred on CBS's Two Broke Girls, another great show, NBC's Save Me, starring Anne Hesh, and was a guest star on BET's The First Family, and still very, very active in the business. Does voiceover characters on Black Dynamite on the Cartoon Network season. Well, as you're going to learn, she is one of the most interesting people out in Los Angeles. She's real. She's great looking, a very sexy lady. We're going to talk not just about her television work, but about her charity work, fundraising, volunteering, hosting. Debra, I'm exhausted telling people you've done so much. I'm so proud to be able to call you a friend.
Blessings, Bruce. And plus, trust me, there are plenty of people out there that do that and more, that dedicate their lives to their causes, their beliefs, foundation of who they are, and dedicate with passion and compassion, taking an ideal and making it into actuality and dedicating their lives to a greater cause, a greater purpose, and a higher consciousness. So I'm not the only one. There are plenty of people that do it and inspire me in their daily work of really walking the walk. So I'm grateful to be among them. I'm grateful to be an intricate part of the universe as well. How you doing?
Hey, I miss hanging from time to time. We used to get together and have a good time. You were on my television show out in Los Angeles.
I certainly remember.
And remember. When we get done with the radio show, we'll exchange telephone numbers and catch up a little bit, or maybe we'll talk about what I've been up to. But I know people really want to hear all about Debra Wilson. You are one of the most interesting people that I got to know out there, not just because you're from Queens, New York, Debra, but because of how you navigated such dangerous waters, such complicated waters in the entertainment industry. If you don't mind, Debra, I would love for people to learn about your beginning days, what you were doing in Queens, what made you think that you could be someone who can succeed in the entertainment industry. I'd really love to hear.
I didn't. That's just it. I didn't think I was someone who could succeed in the entertainment industry. I didn't pursue the industry. The industry pursued me. I didn't think I would succeed. I didn't think I should have gotten the opportunities. They came, and you discover the make and measure of who you are as a human being, not as an actress or a comedian or a performer or an entertainer. You discover the make and measure of who you are as a human being as you go through these experiences and expressions, creative expressions, and you begin to cultivate your passion and in the process for those that are truly reaching levels of personal and intimate and spiritual success. You're cultivating your compassion along with your passion. But I didn't think I would succeed, and I wouldn't necessarily call them dangerous waters. For me, they were just a matter of having these experiences and deciding who I was in the middle of the experience, because no matter what experience you have, the greatest common denominator will always be you. In any experience you have, whether it's with another human being or whether it's with a business, it's all about a relationship. And I didn't say relationship. I said relationship. And the reason I broke it down that way is because it all has to do with how you relate in each experience, whether it's with a person or whether it's with yourself or whether it's with an experience. And so I had a very toxic relationship with myself, and so I never believed that I could or should, yet at the same time, the passion of who you are and what you're driven to do that you love, the X factor that makes you sing without paying attention to who's looking and dance without caring and just do the things that you do that really allows your vessel to thrive, that really allows your vessel to just focus on that joy, which is pure abundance, pure joy, pure light, pure wonderment, pure amazingness, is the Spirit of God within you, because it doesn't call upon you to be jealous, fearful, intimidated. It only calls on you to be completely clear about the moment you're in, which is like prayer. You know, when you're in that moment of prayer, whatever it is, or that desire or that meditation, you're not thinking about anything else. You're in that moment of euphoria, and it is euphoric. And yet in the human aspect, I kept saying, I don't really deserve that thing, because there were so many aspects of my life I felt I didn't deserve. I grew up with a lot of low self-esteem and thought I don't deserve these things, but yet when I was in the moment, it was the most powerful experience and of expression that I could ever possibly put on the planet. And so eventually, as these moments kept coming up, I kept fearfully and treading lightly into them. So it wasn't so much a dangerous thing other than me not really appreciating, loving myself, and allowing myself the truth of who I am, which a lot of people don't do, which is that we come to this planet to be deserving. Not to say that we have a sense of entitlement, which is different, but we have a right to experience beauty and be beautiful in the process. And everything is designed for us to come to that conclusion, no matter what we do and no matter where we go and no matter what experience we're meant to have. Everything on its core level is designed for us to love ourselves, experience the greatest of who we are, and then express it out towards the world. And mine, in that culmination of my journey, is all about allowing people to heal through laughter and then discovering my compassion along with my passion to do the volunteer work that I do and get involved in charities, a number of them that I've been involved ever since I moved here. And so we're talking 18 years of being involved on one level or another with a number of organizations that I've been with for quite a while.
Wow. So I do want to spend a little bit of time on what led to you being given the opportunity to be on Mad TV, and then I really want to go into all the other things that are so much also so important.
Okay, on the physical level, there are two levels, and I will give you, I'm assuming you're asking for the physical level. On the physical level, I was in a comedy club, and I had never been to one before, and I had just come from Manhattan. I'm from New York, and I got a chance to see this movie that I really wanted to see, and when I came from the movie, somebody was handing out flyers for a club. It was a very, very well-known and iconic place in Greenwich Village, New York. It's downtown Manhattan for those that know and don't know, and it was called the Village Gate. And they were doing stand-ups, and many, many stand-ups came through there. So we're talking Ray Romano, Jay Moore, Wanda Sykes, you name it, they came through, and I got a chance to watch them perform. And there was an improv group that was performing first, and they needed a volunteer from the audience, and I raised my hand, and little did I know that raising my hand at that moment was the catalyst for making choices to raise my hand for the direction that the universe was shifting me. And it was the first conscious opportunity to recognize that there was a shift coming, even though I didn't recognize it right away. And by the time Mad TV came and I had a manager, I was still working a city job. I had already done a comedy series in New York, very similar to Mad TV, and it was an improv and sketch show that was done out of a comedy club in Harlem. And it was called Uptown Comedy Club, and it was also syndicated on Fox. And I had already done that. I had done a series with Joan Rivers called Can We Shop? I had, and I was, at the time, a spokesperson for Burger King. So I had a campaign under my belt, and I had 2 series under my belt, and I also had a film that I did called It Only Happens With You, with names like Josh Mostel, Patrick, can't think of his name, it's going to drive me crazy because I see him. But Perry King, Campbell Scott, George C. Scott's son, Patrick Stewart. And so it was my first major film role in a major film, and Leslie, and the magnificent French actress Leslie Caron. And so for me to be among these stellar people for the first time, just being among them, for me it was less about the consciousness of the business and more about I'm having these amazing experiences with people I've seen and people I've heard, and I get a chance to have opportunity in this. So I never really saw myself completely as this actress. I saw this opportunity to have this experience, and I only saw it as an experience. I really never tabulated to be an actress. So by the time Mad TV came along, and I auditioned in New York, I was still working for the City of New York Parks and Recreation. I kept my city job. And so when I auditioned, more than anything else, it was, another experience I can step into. I really didn't completely overstand, and I'm using that word very specifically and meticulously, I didn't overstand the ramifications of taking on this audition and what the process would be and what the journey would be. I had absolutely no idea. I knew that everything I had done in New York came to full circle. So in other words, the TV show that I did in New York, that sketch comedy show, it came to full circle and it ended. The commercial campaign with Burger King, it went full circle and it ended. The show that I did with Joan Rivers, it came full circle and I ended. So for me, my process was, this is just another experience I'm going to step into, and then that will come full circle, and then I'll go off and do something else. So my mind was already on the other things and the possibilities of other things I'm going to do, but the other things that I was going to do still held the characteristic of it's going to come full circle and end. It's going to come full circle and end. So when I auditioned for Mad TV, I went in there just having a good time, staying in the present moment as actors do, not thinking about really the future of where this was going to go and what it was going to be. I didn't know any of that. I didn't think about any of that because I didn't think with the mind of an actress. I never really thought about the mind of an actress or a successful one and a working actress. Even though I was working successfully and doing things that were significant enough, I never really had that mindset. And that's based on low self-esteem and fear. So by the time the first audition for Mad TV came along, it was fun. The second audition came along. It was fun. And between the second, the third, and the fourth, I had already booked another film. I booked a Spike Lee film called Girl Sick. And again, here I am doing work with people like Leslie Caron to Spike Lee, and I'm just going, I'm stepping into an experience. This is great because this will end. It's a film. I will do what I need to do, and the film will wrap, and I'll wrap, and then So my mind is not working on moving from one project to the next. My mind is only going, I'll do this, and it will end. I'll do this, and it will end. I'll do this, and it will end. It's like being in Disneyland. You don't live in Disneyland. You go and you have a good time, and then the day ends. And so my mind was working on how things were going to end, and that's where my consciousness was. So I never had the consciousness of an actress to perpetuate a career. It was just, I do this thing, I step into the experience, I have a great time, and it ends. I'm a human being, and all this stuff happens, and it ends. So when Mad TV came along, between the third and the fourth, and I had 4 auditions, by the time the third audition came up, I do the Spike Lee movie. I got permission from Spike Lee to go and do this audition, and I had one day. He gave me one day. Wow. And so I was out in L.A. I did my audition in one day, and this was for the network. It was for the producers. At the time, it was Quincy Jones and David Salzman, QDE Entertainment. And in front of the network at Fox. And so I went and I had a great time. At the end of the evening when they were flying me back out, Sax Barr and Adam Small, who were also the executive producers who found me in the first place, who were also writers for In Living Color, said, wow, you know what, we know we have to speak to your representation first, but you're sitting here. We're not taking you back to the airport until it's time to go. You can't be in the production offices by yourself, and it's just us. We might as well tell you, the network loved you, Quincy Jones loved you, David Saltzman loved you. They're going to make you an offer. The offer is going to be made. In fact, they're hoping to make an offer by tomorrow and get your contract and paperwork and everything. And I was the first one hired. I was the first one who had the offer. And so I was like, wow, that's great. Went back to do the Spike Lee movie, and then to come out here to do the pilot, I was like, well, it's just a pilot, and that'll end because it's a pilot. Came out and did the pilot for a month, and I love the idea of L.A. I love the palm trees, and I took the first time I took pictures of palm trees, the whole camera, 26 pictures, a disposable camera, all of them palm trees, all of them palm trees. So, I came out here, I loved it. It was like, wow, and for the first time out of New York, I had my own apartment. I didn't even have a driver's license at the time. I had my own apartment, and it was like, wow, this is this independent living for this moment. But back in New York, back at my parents' house, my parents had moved, but still I was living in their house, me and my sister. It's like my parents retired, they moved to South Carolina, and there was the house left. Everyone else had grown and left, and it was like, well, I'm not going to move. I ain't got no reason to move. And my sister's like, well, I don't have a reason to move either. And it was a big 3-bedroom house, so it was just me and my sister. And so we both live together. So we're grown women living together, and it's fine for us. I'm paying the bills, and we're paying the bills, and I'm working for City of New York Parks and Recreation. I'm still working for the city. I went part-time. Still working for the city because I'm like, look, this thing is fun, but that's supposed to end. My city job was the only thing that was lasting. It was insurance, and it was everything else, and I loved it. It was passion and compassion. So for me, if you talked about Parks and Recreation, I would expound on what I'm doing. I could see a career in that because it was a career in my mind. It really was. I saw myself and my life doing that. That was the thing, doing recreational programming. I worked with developmentally disabled because I ran the gamut. I taught preschool. I did after school. I was a junior counselor who went into a counselor who went into a camp director. I worked for a program at a playground called Playground for All Children, and the program was called REACH, which was Recreation, Education, Athletics, and Crafts for the handicapped. And it put differently abled with able-bodied children in the same playground. And so where one swing, where a kid could use their legs, another swing had a pulley system for someone who could not. And so it incorporated differently abled children with able-bodied children and incorporated them together. So I ran the gamut, and each season had different programs. After school, summer programs, preschool programs. I worked with senior citizens and did aerobics programs. And I went from facility to facility. I had a ground facility that I worked from when I was teaching preschool. But other than that, once I was finished there, I would go from facility to facility. So, and I was building, I was creating. I was taking notes of what the neighborhood and the community wanted, what the children wanted, what the seniors wanted. And I was able to adjust, create, and come in full force with full total confidence and full total love and commitment and passion and compassion. And that, to me, was what I breathed. So when it came to the acting thing, that was second nature to me. It wasn't first nature. It was second nature. And I didn't pay attention to the signs of all the things that I was booking and seeing it as a chain. I didn't see it. So when Mad TV came along, I do the pilot. I go back home. The day I'm about to go back home, that night, I get a call right as I'm hitting the door, Bruce, right as I'm hitting the door. It was Fax Barr, one of the executive producers, and said, we got picked up to series, because what they did was after we shot the pilot for a month, they did 24 hours of editing. It was 8 hours at a time with 3 editors. They did round the clock to deliver it to Fox, round the clock. So one person would come in for 8 hours, another person would come in for 8 hours after that, and then another person would come in for 8 hours, and it was offline in 24 hours, handed to Fox. Fox said yes.
Wow.
So right as I'm heading out the door going, yay, I'm going back to my, quote-unquote, my life, my real life, I got a call. The first thing I hear is it got picked up to series.
Wow.
You're moving back out here permanently or moving back out here for a while. And I was upset. I was not happy. I was not happy because I knew that my life would have to change. So as I'm slowly coming to that realization and preparing myself, the shock hit so bad that I say I'm not going. Contracts are done. Paperwork are done. All the realities are in. Lawyer was hired, meaning entertainment lawyer on my side, and manager. All the paperwork was signed. Everything was done, negotiated. They told me. They walked me through it. So the more they walked me through it, the more they, and told me all the details, the more it sunk in, because that was the reality. The more I packed boxes and stuff, that was the reality. And so when it was all said and done, and they were starting rehearsals, they were starting the process, the pre-production process, I said, I'm not going. I refused to leave. The only thing that got me out there at the time was they said that they would sue me and my manager for everything I was worth.
Wow.
They said, we will sue you. You can't. What kind of bullshit is this? This isn't high school drama. This isn't, your local community improv group. And they were like, your ass is out here now. And I missed a week of rehearsal because I said I'm not coming. I just said I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Not going to go. Not doing it. And they're like, bullshit. And so when that reality was driven home, that you're going and you're going to do this, like when your mother says, I said eat that right now, and the reality is driven home, you don't argue with the reality. You step into the reality. And so I timidly stepped into the reality. And I didn't hit the ground until 4th season. In fact, by 2nd season, the producers wanted to let me go. But the network was like, bullshit, we're keeping her. I don't care how green she is. We don't care how green she is. Let her get her shit together. She'll have to get her shit together because what's being produced on the screen when she's in that moment is gold, is comedy gold. Because, again, when I step into that moment and you're dancing like nobody's watching and you're singing like nobody's listening, that's the Spirit of God running through your vessel, coursing through your veins. And you're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about the future. You're just thinking about that moment and being bathed in your laughter, bathed in the laughter.
There was a lot of laughter. You were doing some great work on that show.
Blessings. Thank you. It took me, and it wasn't until, honestly, Bruce, it wasn't until after all of that, all those years from New York to L.A., it wasn't until the fourth season that I hit the ground running and said, I'm home. And I didn't just mean home in L.A., I'm home with me. Inside of me, I'm home. And whatever I have to go through and whatever I have to discover, any of the pain, the sorrow, the sadness, the suffering, I'm now clear enough that I'm home, that at the end of all of that will be celebration.
Wow, what an incredible story. And for someone, and I remember now, with us doing the TV show out in L.A., and I remember hearing about the self-esteem. What you bring out is really what so many people are dealing with but not wanting to talk about. And hearing you talk about it puts so much great thought, good feeling out in the world so that people can say, wow, Debra Wilson, the star of Mad TV, the crazy gal who was like the Lucille Ball of Common Times, going out there and was able to get past the self-esteem things. For instance, when you were making, let's just say, $15,000 a year at the parks, I'm sure that the money you were making in your first year was 10 or 20 times that or 100 times that, whatever it was, or more. How did you deal, how did the self-esteem issues kick in with that, accepting that kind of money?
It had nothing to do with money. Money didn't do anything for me at that point because I started working when I was 14 years old. And from the age of 14 on, I never, ever asked my parents for money ever again, ever. I talked to my mom not too long ago, and we joked about that. And she was like, you know what, you, at the age of 14, you stopped asking for money. In fact, I would, take small bills in the house and pay them or put my own food in the refrigerator so that they didn't have to buy extra groceries because I loved working. That gave me esteem. And using that money to do the things I was supposed to do and do the things I loved doing, that gave me esteem. So at this point, as I'm coming through and I'm getting older, I'm dealing with different issues. There's no sense of practicality in those issues that money can take care of. You feel me? So at home it was like, well, I have my creature comforts. I'm home. I have my family. I have my social set. I have my job. I have what I'm doing part-time while I'm in school, and everything seems to be balanced and healthy. So whatever money I'm using is supplementation to everything else in my life, as opposed to the money I'm making was supposed to be part of my life, and it wasn't a part of my life because it didn't quell all the other things I wanted quelled. Because I have to discover those things that need to be quelled, look them in the eye, look them in the mirror, and then handle them without money. Without money. So the money made no difference to me. The money made no difference. In fact, with all that money I made, I was still living in an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment, 6 years before I said, okay, it's time to buy some property. It's okay. It's okay. And even then, I didn't give myself permission to do it. I had animals with me because I had 2 snakes and at the time 2 cats. And one of my cats I had to put down. And I just said, it's time to let go. And I love art. So when I would buy things that would really be an assimilation to my soul, would be a mirror to my soul, I'd buy a piece of art that would be a mirror to my soul. That was like staring in church, like being in church to sit and just look at this, a miracle of art. I kept saying, well, with what I'm buying, I can't do this in a one-bedroom apartment anymore. And now that my cat has passed, and I was traumatized for an entire year, literally emotionally traumatized by having to put her down, it was time to continue to move forward. So all of those things were all about how do I personally, emotionally, and psychologically move forward, and how does this money support that shift. But I still have to deal with me no matter what. So when I moved and really manifested the kind of place I wanted to move into, it was just a matter of using it for that, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to go out and buy frivolous stuff that I really, really, really don't need. And, hey, I'm just going to go out and buy things that are flashy that are an extension of my insecurity. It wasn't like that. So, and the reason it wasn't like that, because the prerequisite was when I did the Burger King commercials, I made 3 to 4 times as much in 6 months than I made in 1 year with Parks and Recreation. So all that money just got stocked away. It's like, well, I love going to the movies, so I don't need more money for that. And I had a jewelry fetish, and I still do. And even when I was working for Parks and Recreation before any of the entertainment stuff, I always had money stocked away so that I can have a custom piece of jewelry made. And I got that from my dad, because my dad is a sharp man, and he loves jewelry and he loves looking good. And for me, even though I dress down all the time, I'm a casual person. I'm a casually dressed person. I'm a casual person in general. When it came to jewelry, I would always get something made, something classy for myself, a little something here, something there. And that's something I always had. That's my fetish. That was my thing. But other than that, it was like, put your money away, pay your bills, because I learned that practicality from the age of 14. Put your money away. And I was looking forward to it. So at 14, I was paying bills in the house. And my mother would go like, well, where's that bill? My dad would go, has anyone seen the mail? Where's that bill? And I'd be like, I paid it. And I'd be like, huh? And I was like, because I put my money away. It made me feel like an adult. And so for me, money was about practicality. Yes, go and enjoy it and have fun, but don't have fun at the expense of not being practical. And I'm still like that today. Don't have fun at the expense of not being practical. Be practical. So I lived in a one-bedroom apartment for 6 years while the show was on. And it wasn't until the end of the 6th, going on the 7th year, that I went, it's time, and it's okay. And the reason I didn't buy property also was because I kept telling myself in an apartment, it's not your responsibility. It's not your responsibility because, all you have to do is pay rent, and then somebody else comes and fixes and takes care of that stuff. You don't know any about that stuff, even though you lived in a house. Everything was taken care of and paid for. The house, the mortgage was already paid for. And so my sister and I didn't have rent to pay, but we paid bills and we did maintenance and upkeep. And that was fine because it was our house. I was born and raised there. But here in this place, it's like, no, I don't have to be responsible. You know why? Because I didn't believe I could be responsible for something bigger than that. You're going to lose. You're going to fail. You're going to fail at having a house because it's too much responsibility. You're going to fail. What if this job ends? Everything was not necessarily doom and gloom, but it all keyed back into the low self-esteem. Are you worthy enough to have a living space and claim it your own? Can you perpetuate it? Can you handle it? Are you going to have to give it away? Are you going to be a failure and lose it and not be able to pay it one day because you'll be out of work or something? And so it's the main reason why I never bought property. And then I finally went and bought property. After that. And I really manifested it because at the time I said, I deserve it. So all my manifestations, all of my thoughts, my envisioning, all my prayers was not so much the property, more or less the prerequisite was, I deserve it. I'm okay, and I deserve it. I'm okay. I am okay with me, and I deserve it. And so that's what I did, and I manifested exactly what I wanted with the exact specifications in the exact neighborhood that I wanted to be in.
I want to go back to one thing that you talked about earlier, because there's not that many people in the world that will get a chance to hear an actress working in a movie with a Leslie Caron or those names, so many of the names that you said, and someone dealing with all those thoughts in their head that may or may not be helpful at the time when you're on the set. The cameras are around you, the director is screaming out, everybody's moving around, the lighting is going. It's a huge production. How does someone, with all those thoughts in their mind, how does someone act?
For me, again, at the time, it wasn't. I didn't think I was acting. I was just doing. I was just being. I was just in the presence of. And that's what, for an actor who really wants to hone their craft and is consciously aware of that, that's the space you want to be in. But that space came naturally to me because I wasn't thinking about it, because I didn't see myself as an actress. I saw this was having an experience and in having a great time. Yes, I was an actress, but it's not something that was in my conscious mind because, again, I was just stepping into these experiences, and the reason I was enjoying them for what they were is because I told myself they're going to end, because I'm used to the conditioning of you'll do this and it'll end. This will come full circle and it'll end. It'll come full circle and it'll end. And that's what it was. So for me, it was less about the project and all the experiences in between. More or less, it was about knowing that it was going to end. So my mind just kept going to, enjoy it, it's going to end. Enjoy it, it's going to end. In fact, the network at Fox executives at Fox were like, look, you have to have a meeting with this chick. Because every interview that we're watching, all this publicity and promo stuff, and all these interviews that we're getting, you guys, for Mad TV, she's saying that it may not last. She's saying that, who knows what will happen. Instead of just saying, Mad TV, love it, watch it, blah, 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 promote it, she's like, who knows it'll last. Maybe it won't last. Well, it'll good. It's as good as long as, it's a good show. If it'll last. And the executive producers, Beck Barr and Adam Small, I'd be like, you gotta stop doing that. You gotta stop saying that.
These are all such incredible kind of the behind-the-scenes looks at what it takes to work out in Los Angeles. I could talk to you, and we can learn so much about you, about life in the entertainment industry, life as an actress, as an actor, and maybe I would love to have you back on the show again, because
please,
I do want to talk.
Love it.
Oh, good. Because really, Debra, there's a whole nother show about spirituality, approaching. You've talked about that, but living a spiritual life, living a life of charity, living a life of fundraising and volunteering. I do want to do another show with you just about that. But
awesome.
Good. I'm glad that you're saying that, because we only have a few more minutes left. But I do want you to let people know the specialness of your direction in life that has to do with all those things that we just talked about: charity, fundraising, volunteering. And again, I want to do an entire show about that whenever you have some time in a couple of months or so. But tell us a little bit about that part of your life.
It's necessary and it's vital. For me, it's like breathing, and it's in my bloodstream. It's the oxygen that pumps through my heart and through my blood. Most people, when they think of saying thank you and you're welcome, it's things that they are taught by their parents. It's a conditioning more than anything else. But there is, if you take the time to show your own self-gratitude and treat yourself gently, you begin to treat others gently and know that what you give them is not a barter. It is definitely a human and spiritual exchange that fills you in ways that you have yet to experience in your greater good and your higher consciousness. When you're volunteering with either animals or children, patients of cancer, or just creating an offering of some sort, knowing that you are capable of giving love and support without limitation to somebody else's needs, it fills you. We're designed for that, and it is a natural and organic experience within you that transmutes you. It just does. You can't help it. It's the same way that if you're thirsty and you drink, you become satisfied. Your body takes in that fluid, it takes in that liquid, and your thirst becomes quenched. If you're hungry and you eat, your body becomes satisfied. And so they're natural. Spiritually, it's also physiologically important for the body and the soul to receive it. As most people would think that it's just an option, it's not. It's not. Metaphysically, spiritually, psychically, emotionally, for your well-being, it is mandatory and necessary, and it was created by the universe for you to recognize yourself in others and be the mirror to the world around you. And that's why it's vital, like breathing.
And it's very obvious when people are not giving of themselves that way. When you see them on TV, you see interviews, they're so self-absorbed, and they truly do think that they are the center of the universe. And in many ways, each and every one of us, yes, we are the center of our universe. But when someone is a giver, there's two kinds of people in my idea of life. Is there's givers and there's takers, and there are in-betweens. But there's that very special person who you see doing charity work, fundraising, volunteering. They have such a different vibe, such a different energy level than someone who's just a me first level.
Yes, absolutely. And it is obvious. It will definitely be obvious because the intent of the soul speaks volumes, and it's clear in its actions too, because we're all intent manifested into movement and activation, and the activation from our intent is exactly what we see, and it becomes obvious. It becomes obvious. We can turn a blind eye to it, but it is no less obvious because the intent speaks volumes, and the actions just follow the intent. There is no such thing as action without intent. I mean, the whole universe was created from intent and then, burst forth and birthed into action, into this whole conscious experience. That consciousness is what we mainly are. We're spirit beings that happen to have physical bodies that express this life and the lessons in it.
And that's what makes you so approachable and so likable, because you're looking to join together with people. You're not looking to be better than or look down at people, and it's very, very obvious. That's why you're doing a show like this with me. This is not going to help your career. This is not going to enlighten people in Hollywood about who you are and what you are, but you're willing to share who you are, how you've done it, and how you're living life with me today. And I hope thousands and thousands of people, many of them your fans and many of the people that respect you, will be able to hear this over the days and weeks and months ahead. I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I mean it. I'm going to give you a call. First of all, we're going to have to catch up on personal stuff in the next day or two, because I want to hear more stuff that I don't want to ask you on the show. But I have your number here.
You should ask me on the show. There shouldn't be anything I would say in private that I wouldn't say in public, especially knowing that we're all connected and people are going to take the same emotional residual effects and apply it in their lives and say, you know what, I deserve. I can be happy. I should be happy. I want to live my life, learn my life, and love my life. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to be that conscious expression that each and every one of us has a microcosm bursting forth to be the full universe of our own being, our full universe of our own experience, the full universe of our own relationships, the full universe of our own expression, our full universe of our own lives. We're all bursting forth, waiting to do the same thing that we all are supposed to do, which is to love and be loved. And it's a various journey, an intimate journey for each and every one of us, but I want to expose my journey. I've been through a lot and am continuing to go through a lot, and I am bursting to live my life, learn my life, and love my life as others, just to love and be loved in return.
That's why when your name came up and I said, oh, my God, I remember you as being such a great and special person. And, of course, we're carrying on, maybe even in 15 years later or 14 years later. It's just incredible. And
Amen.
Yes. And you look great, Debra. I mean, I love how you look, and you're doing such good stuff in the world. And thank you for saying that you'd be back on the show. Thank you for doing this show.
It'd be an honor.
Wonderful. Great. And we're going to connect, and we'll talk more about it. And then on the next show that we do, we'll ask some of those questions I didn't quite get a chance to ask on this show. And then I really want to focus on fundraising work, but not just fundraising to get known and famous, but really fundraising. Why? Volunteering. Why? What you get out of that. Who you're volunteering for. Who you're doing your charity work for. Who you're doing your hosting work for. And we'll get all of that in on the next show. So God bless. Love you. And I look forward to having you on again very, very soon.
Love you too, Bruce. And I look forward to coming back.
Thank you so much. Debra Wilson.
All right, beautiful one. Talk to you later.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
What a great show with Debra Wilson. I look forward to having her on the show again. Boy, I learned so much. It was so insightful. She is such an incredible lady. Thrilled to have her on the show, and even more thrilled that she's looking forward to coming back and sharing more about her life, more about her experiences in show business. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Business Insight. This is Bruce Starr. We'll catch you again real soon. Bye-bye, everybody.